Let's bring in Missouri Republican Senator Roy Blunt. The senator is a member of the Senate Intel and the Defense Appropriations Subcommittees. He's just returned from a trip to the war zone. Senator, thanks for being here.
Well, great to be here.
What's your assessment of where we are now in Ukraine?
Well, I think it's hard to tell exactly where Putin is in his own mind, but what we just saw is really out of the Putin playbook. What they did in Chechnya, what they did in Syria, what they've been doing to terrorize urban populations as much as they can. They clearly lost the first part of the war. You know, it'd be interesting to know whether Putin was more surprised by the Ukrainian resistance or the turnaround in NATO back to the original purposes of NATO, including Germany now very willing to do what NATO's designed to do, or the lack of effectiveness of his own military on the ground. So I think now they're just continuing to try to terrorize people and intimidate people. I don't think the Ukrainians are going to be easily intimidated.
Here is President Zelensky about Russian nukes. Take a listen.
When Russia gives information and says if something goes not according to plan, they can use chemical weapons and their nuclear potential. And that is why I believe these are dangerous claims of untrustworthy people. And if we believe some of them are already untrustworthy, then they can use nuclear weapons.
How much does that factor in, do you think, to our policy decisions about how we as the U.S. are operating in this zone?
Well, I think our policy decisions are affected by the fact that we don't have the Title V commitment that we have to the NATO countries that we're allied with, but also there's an attack here on freedom. There's a buildup that started when, in 2014, the Russians were able to just seize territory in eastern Ukraine and seize the Crimea region. I think we can't be intimidated by what Putin says he might do. There are things he can't do as well. You know, he doesn't want to start a nuclear war. He may use chemical weapons. I think he's done that before, but we can't build our policy around that. I think our policy is to continue to give the Ukrainians everything they need as quick as we can get it to them. They're not asking us to help them fight. They're asking us to give them what they need to fight. And so far, they've been doing a tremendous job of pushing back on what I was told when we were in Poland, that is about 85% of all Russian forces are now either in or around Ukraine. So they have put their entire army there. The army didn't perform very well, but our policy, I think, needs to be as supportive of people who are willing to fight for their own freedom as we can be, and that can include training probably outside of the country, and I believe that training is beginning, but it needs to include all the equipment they need and all of the other supplies they need for a population that's being terrorized by an invading enemy.
You're on Senate Intel. We just heard the CIA Director, William Burns, just over the past few days say that China is the biggest threat, the biggest issue the CIA has ever dealt with. We don't know how China's factoring in really in Ukraine other than supporting Russia. What's your response to that statement?
Well, I think China is, in the long run, our biggest challenge. In the immediate run, I think we need to be sure that we're not sending the wrong signals to China, that we aren't willing to step up and protect our friends, protect those who are willing to fight for and protect themselves. Obviously, a lot of concern about Taiwan, but China needs to start thinking about the effectiveness that Taiwan would have on the ground as well. You know, even if Russia was somehow able to subjugate Ukraine temporarily, they're not going to be able to take over that country like they thought they would. They believed they were going to be able to go in and within a week have displaced the government, have intimidated the Ukrainians who they thought would want to be part of Russia again. And what Ukrainians, who knows what they thought in 2014, but between the seizure of Crimea and the constant fighting on the eastern part of the country, Ukraine knows they don't want to be part of Russia again. And you've got people that look like you, that understand your language, that all have an AK-47 in their closet somewhere. This is a big mistake for Putin, and he needs to figure out how to back away from that mistake. And the Chinese need to be watching that as well. The world is not as docile as either the Russians or the Chinese think they are. And we're seeing how much people prize their own freedom.
Last thing, Senator, you're retiring at the end of this year,
Yep.
and you've been up on the Hill for a long time. You know, you commented at President Biden's inauguration, you were one of the leaders of that ceremony, about bipartisanship and trying to get things done. Just wondering your assessment now as we get ready to head to the midterms. Boy, it's been pretty split in this country.
Well, it has. I would say, though, on the trip I was just on, the trip organized by the majority leader in the House, Mr. Hoyer, he and I were whips in the House together, had a long-term relationship of trust, even though we seldom agreed on policies. You couldn't tell of the 9 people that were on that trip who were Republicans and who were Democrats. I think this is one of those moments when you do have the opportunity to look at what binds us together, what we stand for as a country. In the narrow division of the country now for over a decade has led to everyday politics thinking that it was the difference in whether your side was in charge the next time or not. We clearly need to get over that and get to where we get focused on the work we need to do, and frankly do it as much as we can in a way that doesn't involve 4 leaders locked in a room somewhere, but involves the members of the House and Senate trying to work out things that their job is to understand the details, not to fight about the politics every day.
I remember that regular order. I remember it well.
And it matters. And it matters.
It does. Senator, thanks so much for the time.